All right, people. A little bit of Mariners news here. This came down the wire yesterday, but let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit because it currently is the most interesting thing happening with the Mariners. And unfortunately, it is represented in one of the players that we have lost. Mitch Haniger is no longer a Seattle Mariner. Yesterday, he agreed to a 3-year, $43.5 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. Giants going all in. Apparently, they're also going after Aaron Judge, and that's not even the end of it. So, Mitch may very well land in a very nice situation over there with a really good team. So, good for him. Obviously, love Haniger. Great player for us. Really nice piece on this team over the last few years. Um, I'm just gonna say it though. I I did not want to give a bunch of money to a guy who I just didn't know about. And when I saw this deal, I know there are definitely some people out there. I've seen the Mariners fans on Twitter who are like, "Oh man, we should have kept him. Oh, I'm so sad." I can't get that sad about this personally. Yes, he's a plus player. He's a plus outfielder and a plus hitter, but I don't want to commit long-term significant money. I know it's not huge money, but it's significant money to a guy who ultimately his availability is in question. Last year, he gave you like 40% of the season, and it wasn't a great 40% of the season. Just being honest here. I mean, look, I like him, of course. We all love Mitch Haniger. Great teammate. He works hard. He says and does the right things. He's always working, trying to get better. When he's been healthy, he's been great. He's been a, fringe, admittedly fringe, but still MVP candidate. He's had a 39 home run season here. He's had an all-star season. He's had a year where he's batted 285, high average, high power, capable of being a really special player in this league. But I just, when I look at the year that he's coming off of, where he missed over 100 games and honestly didn't play that well when he was playing, I just wasn't interested in giving him anything more than like a 1 year, maybe 2 year deal. And I wasn't really willing to go over 10 million a year. It's not just about the games you miss. It's about the games you play where you don't play well because you're still playing through an injury. And I think that was kind of all over Mitch's season in 2022. Yes, he was out there in some of those games, but I don't think he was giving us the best version of himself because he was playing through injuries. So you add it all up, and I can't be that sad. Now, we do have Teoscar Hernandez to nominally take his place, but with Hernandez in the fold, Haniger's role on this team probably would have been a designated hitter. So now that we know we're not going to have Haniger in 2023, that's an area we need to address. And looking at what this team has done so far, that's the main focus. We need a designated hitter, and we need to figure out what we're going to do in left field. Either we can let the young guys play in left field and hope one of them works out. Haggerty, Moore, Kelnick, Trammell. That's a platoon. You could do a big platoon over there, matchups. You could just hope one of those guys sticks, or you can go out and get somebody big. I think that the main guy that the Mariners are looking at right now might be Bryan Reynolds, who requested a trade from the Pirates, which I'm definitely intrigued in, and I would be willing to give a non-trivial prospect for him. Bryan Reynolds, relatively young player. He made the All-Star game in 2021. His 2021 season was better than any season Haniger's had. He hit over 300. 2022 was not as good, but he was still a very much plus hitter. He gives you a little bit of power. He's capable of hitting for a very high average. He gets on base. He draws a decent amount of walks. This is a quality piece. And you would have him for relatively cheap for a little while longer because this would only be his fifth year in the league. The last 2 years, he's played basically the full season. Now, you are asking him to transition from the NL to the AL, but this is still a very nice outfielder that you could absolutely feel good about throwing out there as a starter. And that would take a lot of the pressure off of your utility pieces like Kelnick, like Haggerty like more. So if we want to get in on the Bryan Reynolds trade, that's fine. Personally, I'm not that troubled if we deal a guy like Harry Ford, because we already have maybe the best catcher in baseball right now, and he's young. So, okay. I'm cool with dealing Kelnick because at this point, that can go one way or the other. Brash and Hancock, I'm obviously not as excited to deal, but if that's what you got to do to make it happen, then I get it. This is a nice player, so you're going to have to give up some assets in order to land him. He's already requested a trade, by the way, so his value should be depressed a little bit. And if you get this guy, you're pretty much set. Your lineup is set, your defense is set, and this is a piece that is relatively young and should be there for a while. So you're not getting a guy like a Colton Wong who you're maybe just kind of hoping you get one more good year out of. But I want to briefly talk about the Mariners' overall big strategy here, because obviously what we are doing right now as a team is underwhelming fans, and I know some fans are starting to get irritated. I see it on Facebook, I see it on Twitter. When are we going to go do this? When are we going to go do that? And on the one hand, I think that's completely defensible of a position. Like, this is clearly a team that is poised to maybe go win now. And we're watching teams like the Astros get Abreu. We're watching the Rangers get DeGrom to potential studs. And we're picking through these trades for guys like Colton Wong and Teoscar Hernandez, who are good, but they don't jump out to you and go, oh, this is going to push us over the top in the division, when we lost the division by, 16 games last year. And even if we do manage to overcome a team like Houston, you've got a team like the Rangers who might be coming up. And even a guy like a Bryan Reynolds, who is clearly really good, he's not necessarily going to make you feel like you're better than Houston now. But the broad strategy here, and I'm certainly not the first person to suggest this, but I think the broad strategy at play here, and I think the thing to keep in mind with these Mariners, it seems like they're trying to keep their options open for next year with the big one. The big one. I mean, the beyond Aaron Judge one. I'm talking about Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani. He's going to be playing for the Angels this year, but he's already made it relatively clear that he's not very happy with how bad that team is. And there's no way in the world he's going to want to stay there if they have another bad season. So the Angels, if they get to the trade I don't actually. I think there's a trade deadline in baseball. I don't know exactly when it is, but if they get to the trade deadline and they're bad, they may trade him. But if they don't, if they decide they're just going to pray that he has a change of heart and stays in LA, which probably won't happen, and then he gets to free agency and just walks, then the Mariners have to be at the top of his list, because he almost came here when he first came to the major leagues. So this seems to be why we're not going all in this offseason, because we want to leave our options open next offseason to get Ohtani, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. He had an incredible year last year, and also one of the best power hitters in baseball. He's hit he's hit 80 home runs over the last 2 years. So I admit this is a risky gamble the team is taking if it's true, but I'll just say this. If you actually can get Ohtani next year, then it's worth it. This guy is beyond a guy like Xander Bogaerts, Carlos Correa, Trey Turner, the guys that the Mariners could have gotten this offseason that we didn't go after, that a lot of Mariners fans wish they went after. Nimmo, even Benintendi maybe. This guy is an ace pitcher. Like, if you get Ohtani, assuming you don't have to trade anything to get him, you've got the most loaded rotation in all of baseball. It's 4 guys who can be aces or already are aces, and then Robbie Ray is like your 5th starter. And you're getting yourself a designated hitter, which, hey, that's what I just said we need right now, right? Who hits for a good average, hits for a ton of power, and can even steal some bases. Like, this is genuinely, over the last 2 years, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball. And while he didn't win MVP last year, which was fair because the Angels were no good, it's hard to imagine a player being more valuable than a guy who will give you an elite bat and an elite arm starting from the mound every 5 games. So if this is the strategy, yes, there are problems. What if the Angels look like they're aggressively trying to pursue options to get good immediately so they can convince Ohtani to stay? What if they pull it off? Then Ohtani could go, oh, I like it here now, re-sign with the Angels, and then you're just stuck. You're going after Manny Machado maybe. Or he could leave the Angels in the offseason but go to a different team. Or the Angels could trade him, and they're not going to trade him to the Mariners because, I mean, I think you got, for obvious reasons, they're not going to trade him to the Mariners, so they could trade him somewhere else. That's all possible. This is a little bit of a gamble we're taking. But we know that he almost came here in the first place. We know we're building something really good here. We know that we have good young pieces to tempt him to want to join. Our pitching staff is really good. Julio, Cal. By then we may have another couple of guys that are really exciting. Ty France will still probably be a pretty good player by that point. So you add it all up, it makes sense. Now, I would say that by the time Ohtani gets here, what are you doing at some of these other positions? Like, what are you doing with Suarez? By then, he's going to be older, probably not such a great player at that point. That's going to be a little bit dangerous. You've also got to look at a guy like Wong. What is Wong going to be in 2024? Like, he'll be, what, 33, 34 by then? You're starting to get into a dangerous spot. So you are going to have other holes to fill. So it's not timed out perfectly, but it seems like the Mariners think this is the way you go all in with Shohei Ohtani. And even though it has problems, I can't disagree with it. All right, I will see you guys later. Go Mariners. Let's see what the team does in the next few days.